In every generation, people search for strong men, not loud men, not popular men. Self-mastery is rare because most people never truly learn to sit with themselves. From childhood, distraction becomes a companion. Noise fills the room. Screens fill the silence. Opinions fill the mind. A boy grows up reacting to everything around him, but rarely observing what is happening within him. Practices. He learns how to respond to messages, how to argue, how to impress, but he is never taught how to control his own thoughts. And so he becomes a man who is strong in appearance but weak in command of his inner world. To master oneself is to stand between impulse and action. It is the ability to feel anger without exploding, to feel desire without surrendering, to feel fear without retreating. Most men do not lack intelligence or opportunity. They lack restraint. They are pulled by every emotion like a leaf in the wind. One insult ruins their day. One rejection destroys their confidence. One temptation erases months of discipline. They are not evil or incapable. They are simply untrained. Self-mastery begins with awareness. A high-value man watches his own mind. He notices when jealousy arises. He sees when ego wants to prove a point. He observes when laziness whispers excuses. Instead of obeying these voices, he questions them. He asks, is this useful? Is this aligned with who I want to become? This pause, this small space between feeling and reaction, is where power lives. Most people never build this space. They react immediately. They argue to protect pride. They spend to satisfy emotion. They speak to dominate conversation. They chase pleasure to escape discomfort. Their lives are guided by impulse. And impulse is a poor leader. A man without self-control is easy to manipulate. Praise controls him. Criticism controls him. Attention controls him. Lust controls him. Fear controls him. He believes he is free, but he is constantly being pulled by invisible strings. Self-mastery cuts those strings. Discipline over emotion is not suppression. It is understanding. A high-value man does not deny that he feels anger, attraction, or frustration. He simply refuses to let those emotions dictate his behavior. He knows that temporary feelings should not create permanent consequences. He understands that reacting in the heat of the moment often leads to regret in the cold of reflection. This control requires practice. It requires sitting in discomfort without escaping it. It requires delaying gratification when everything inside demands immediate reward. It requires walking away from arguments that could be won but are not worth winning. It requires staying silent when ego wants applause. These choices seem small, but they shape character. In a world that encourages instant reactions, patience feels unnatural. Social platforms reward outrage. Conversations reward loudness. Society celebrates those who display emotion dramatically. Calmness is often mistaken for weakness. Silence is mistaken for insecurity. But true strength is quiet. It does not need to announce itself. Self-mastery also means consistency. It means showing up when motivation fades. It means keeping promises made to yourself. Many men can be disciplined for a week. Few can remain disciplined for years. Consistency is the true test of control. When no one is watching, practices. When results are slow, when doubt creeps in, does he continue? The rare man continues. He wakes up when comfort tells him to sleep longer. He trains when excuses present logical reasons to rest. He saves when temptation invites him to spend. He listens when pride urges him to interrupt. Each decision strengthens his command over himself. Over time, this internal control creates external stability. He becomes reliable. His words carry weight because he does not speak impulsively. His actions carry trust because they are not driven by mood. People feel safe around him because he is predictable in the right way, steady, grounded, centered. Self-mastery is rare because it demands daily effort without applause. There is no audience for resisting temptation. There is no trophy for remaining calm. There is no recognition for keeping discipline when nobody notices. It is a private battle fought within the mind, again and again. Discipline over comfort is a choice that must be made daily, sometimes hourly. Comfort is seductive. It speaks softly and promises relief. It tells a man he has done enough, that he deserves a break, that tomorrow will be a better day to begin. Discipline speaks differently. It does not beg. It does not flatter. It simply presents the work that must be done and waits for a decision. Most men are not destroyed by failure. They are softened by comfort. Comfort convinces them to sleep a little longer, to skip the workout, to delay the difficult conversation, to avoid the responsibility that feels heavy. These small compromises seem harmless, but repeated daily, they create a pattern, and patterns create character. A man who repeatedly chooses ease begins to build a life around avoidance. He avoids discomfort, avoids risk, avoids growth. Slowly, without realizing it, he becomes smaller than his potential. Discipline requires sacrifice. It demands that a man act according to principles rather than feelings. There will be mornings when energy is low and motivation is absent. There will be days when effort feels pointless because results are invisible. There will be nights when distractions are more attractive than long-term goals. In these moments, comfort feels logical. It presents arguments that seem reasonable. Rest today. Start tomorrow. You've earned it. A high-value man understands that feelings are temporary, but consequences are lasting. He does not wait to feel ready. He moves because he has decided. The decision is made once and then honored repeatedly. This is what separates the disciplined from the distracted. Choosing discipline does not mean rejecting rest or joy. It means placing long-term growth above short-term pleasure. It means understanding that real satisfaction comes from progress, not indulgence. Temporary comfort often leads to long-term regret. Temporary discomfort often leads to long-term strength. When a man consistently trains his body, even when tired, he builds more than muscle. He builds proof that he can command himself. When he studies or works on his craft, instead of wasting hours in mindless consumption, he strengthens focus. When he saves money instead of spending impulsively, he builds security. Each disciplined action reinforces identity. He begins to see himself as someone who follows through. Most people rely on motivation. Motivation is unstable. It rises and falls with mood, environment, and circumstance. Discipline is stable. It functions regardless of emotion. It says, this must be done, and then it is done. Comfort also affects standards. The more a man tolerates ease, the lower his expectations become. He accepts average performance. He justifies mediocrity. He compares himself to those who are equally undisciplined to feel adequate. Discipline raises standards. It forces honest self-evaluation. It asks difficult questions. Are you truly doing your best? Are you growing? Or are you hiding inside routine? There is a quiet confidence that comes from disciplined living. It is not loud or arrogant. It is steady. A disciplined man trusts himself because he has evidence. He knows that when things become difficult, he will not collapse. He has practiced choosing effort over excuses too many times. Comfort weakens resilience. When life inevitably becomes hard, a man accustomed to ease struggles to endure. Discipline prepares him. It conditions him to face discomfort without panic. It teaches him that difficulty is not a signal to quit, but a signal to grow. The path of discipline is not glamorous. It is repetitive. It is often unnoticed. It requires saying no to impulses that others say yes to. It may even look boring from the outside, but from the inside it builds structure, stability, and power. Every day presents the same question: comfort or growth. Most answer without thinking. The rare man answers with intention. He understands that who he becomes is shaped not by grand decisions, but by small daily choices repeated over years. And so again and again, he chooses discipline. Strength is built in solitude because the world rarely allows a man to see himself clearly. From childhood, noise surrounds us: friends, family, school, media, social pressures. Every voice demands attention. Every opinion asks for validation. In this environment, it is easy for a man to confuse distraction with growth, to confuse popularity with value. Solitude strips away the noise. It forces a man to face himself without excuses, without applause, without anyone to shield him from the truth. And in that confrontation, strength is forged. Most men avoid being alone because it is uncomfortable. Solitude reveals weaknesses they prefer to hide. It exposes fear, laziness, indecision, and insecurity. Sitting with oneself requires honesty. A man must confront the choices he has made, the time he has wasted, and the opportunities he has ignored. Many flee from this discomfort through entertainment, socializing, or constant activity. These distractions are temporary relief, but they prevent growth. Strength cannot grow in avoidance. Strength grows in facing reality as it is, not as one wishes it to be. In solitude, a man learns patience. Without external stimulation, he cannot escape boredom, frustration, or anxiety. He must sit with his feelings and learn to endure them. This endurance translates into life. When the world challenges him, he has already practiced patience in silence. He has already learned that discomfort is not permanent, that his mind is stronger than his impulses, and that control comes from awareness rather than reaction. Solitude also cultivates clarity. When distractions fade, a man begins to see patterns in his own behavior. He notices which decisions have led to growth and which have led to stagnation. He understands his values more deeply. He identifies his strengths and weaknesses. He clarifies his purpose. A man who never spends time alone never truly knows what he stands for. He borrows beliefs from others and drifts with the crowd. Strength cannot exist without direction. Solitude provides the space to discover it. Creativity and problem-solving flourish in solitude. The mind, freed from constant external demands, can explore, reflect, and innovate. A high-value man uses these moments not for idle thought, but for strategic thinking. He plans, he evaluates, he envisions the life he wants and the steps required to build it. Most people confuse being busy with being productive. True strength comes from thoughtful action, and thoughtful action requires uninterrupted time to think deeply. Solitude is also where self-discipline is reinforced. Without anyone watching, a man must hold himself accountable. He cannot rely on praise or fear of judgment to guide his actions. He practices restraint, focus, and consistency. He trains even when motivation is absent because he has learned that internal standards are stronger than external pressures. This is the foundation of integrity, the alignment of action with principle regardless of circumstance. Emotional resilience is honed in solitude as well. Alone, a man must face his fears, doubts, and insecurities without escape. He learns that emotions are temporary and manageable. He observes them, understands them, and then chooses responses instead of reacting impulsively. Over time, this practice builds a calm, grounded presence. A man who can stand alone in silence can also stand firm when life tests him with chaos, criticism, or conflict. Finally, solitude teaches humility. A man who spends time alone recognizes that life is larger than his desires, larger than his ego. He understands his limitations and the value of continuous learning. He sees that strength is not proving dominance over others, but mastering oneself. This humility, rooted in self-awareness, makes a man approachable, respected, and genuinely powerful. Strength is rare because solitude is rare. Most men fill their lives with noise, activity, and external validation to avoid facing themselves. The high-value man chooses differently. He embraces the quiet, the stillness, the reflection, knowing that each moment alone is an investment in resilience, clarity, and character. In solitude, he builds a foundation that cannot be shaken by the opinions of others or the chaos of the world. Solitude is not emptiness, it is the space where a man becomes unshakable. Ownership mentality is what separates a high-value man from the majority, because it is easy to blame the world, others, or circumstances when things go wrong. Most people spend their lives pointing fingers. They blame their parents for mistakes, their environment for limitations, or society for unfairness. They wait for the perfect conditions to act, the perfect partner to support them, or the perfect opportunity to arise. But this mindset breeds stagnation. A high-value man understands that growth, success, and respect are born from taking responsibility for his own life, regardless of external conditions. Taking ownership begins with the understanding that excuses are powerless tools. Life will never be fair. People will fail you. Circumstances will be beyond control. But surrendering to these realities does not solve problems. It compounds them. A man with an ownership mentality does not waste energy complaining or seeking blame. Instead, he asks a different question. What can I do? He evaluates the situation honestly, identifies his role in it, and determines the next action. This shift from blame to action is transformative. Owning your life also means owning your mistakes. It is easy to celebrate victories, but it takes courage to confront failure without shame or defensiveness. High-value men acknowledge when they have acted poorly or made bad decisions. They do not deny errors or hide behind rationalizations. They analyze them. They learn from them. They make amends where necessary. By taking responsibility for mistakes, a man builds integrity. People notice when someone consistently aligns words with actions and does not deflect accountability. This builds trust, respect, and credibility. Ownership extends to emotions and reactions as well. Many men allow external events to dictate their feelings: anger, jealousy, disappointment, or frustration. A man who takes full responsibility for himself recognizes that his emotions are his responsibility. He may feel the same emotions as anyone else, but he chooses how to act on them. He does not lash out in anger or sulk in resentment. Instead, he reflects, controls, and responds intentionally. This control over self is a direct result of the ownership mentality. Financial and career responsibility is another dimension of ownership. Life does not guarantee stability. Opportunities are not handed freely. A man who owns his life does not rely on luck, inheritance, or chance to succeed. He works relentlessly, plans carefully, and manages his resources wisely. He does not wait for the perfect moment to act. He creates the moment through deliberate effort. Others may rely on external support. But a high-value man understands that independence and self-reliance are essential for true freedom. Relationships are also shaped by ownership. High-value men do not blame partners, friends, or colleagues for conflict. They evaluate their role, intention, and seek solutions rather than assigning fault. They understand that complaining, criticizing, or controlling others does not improve situations. Taking ownership in relationships means cultivating loyalty, communication, and integrity, and addressing issues with maturity instead of evasion. Finally, ownership mentality means being proactive, not reactive. Life throws challenges, setbacks, and surprises, but a high-value man does not wait for circumstances to dictate his path. He anticipates, plans, and executes. He does not wait for the right time or perfect conditions. He creates opportunities instead of chasing them. This forward-thinking mindset ensures continuous growth, resilience, and progress even in the face of adversity. High-value men are rare because ownership is rare. Many are conditioned to seek external validation, to justify failure, and to avoid responsibility. Taking full accountability requires courage, discipline, and self-awareness. It is uncomfortable to admit mistakes, to face weaknesses, and to act without reliance on others. But this discomfort is necessary. It is the crucible in which strength, integrity, and genuine value are forged. A man who owns his life, in every aspect, cannot be shaken by circumstance, cannot be undermined by blame, and cannot be defined by the opinions or actions of others. Ownership is the foundation on which rare practices, high-value men build everything else in their lives. Emotional stability is one of the defining traits of a high-value man. And it is rare because most people allow their feelings to control their actions rather than mastering them. From a young age, men are taught to react, to defend, to compete, to prove themselves. Anger, frustration, jealousy, and fear are treated as signals to act immediately rather than as information to process. Over time, these reactive habits form patterns that make a man predictable, in the worst ways impulsive, easily manipulated, and driven by temporary moods rather than long-term goals. Emotional stability is the ability to feel fully without surrendering to the chaos that emotions can create. A high-value man understands that emotions are not inherently good or bad, they are simply signals. Anger tells him when boundaries have been crossed, but it does not give him permission to lash out. Desire signals interest, but it does not demand indulgence. Fear points to potential risk, but it does not mandate avoidance. Recognizing emotions as data rather than directives is the first step towards stability. This awareness allows a man to pause before reacting, creating a space in which deliberate choices can be made instead of impulsive ones. Most people react immediately because reacting is easier than reflecting. It requires no effort to argue when insulted, to give in to temptation, or to complain about circumstances. But instant reaction rarely leads to positive outcomes. A man who responds without control often regrets his words, damages his relationships, and undermines his own goals. Emotional stability is the practice of resisting these immediate impulses, not suppressing feelings, but choosing responses that align with long-term objectives and personal principles. Discipline in emotion is cultivated through consistent practice. It begins with small moments remaining calm during minor frustrations, not interrupting when anger rises. Avoiding the urge to check social media or vent when emotions are high. These small exercises strengthen the mind's capacity to stay centered under pressure. Over time, the man builds a habit of measured response. The storms of life no longer dictate his behavior. He dictates his own behavior in response to the storms. Emotional stability also requires resilience. Life is unpredictable. People will betray trust. Plans will fail. Circumstances will change suddenly. A man without stability collapses under these pressures, letting external events determine his mood and self-worth. A high-value man experiences setbacks, acknowledges the pain, but does not let it derail him. He accepts reality without unnecessary resistance and adapts while maintaining inner calm. This resilience inspires confidence in others because people sense that he can handle challenges without being ruled by fear, anger, or panic. Furthermore, emotional stability builds clarity in decision-making. When emotions are raw or uncontrolled, judgment becomes clouded. Decisions are based on temporary feelings rather than careful analysis. A high-value man recognizes that impulsive decisions often have long-term consequences. So he learns to separate emotion from action. He may feel anger, but he waits until the mind is clear before speaking. He may feel desire, but he evaluates whether acting on it aligns with his values. He may feel fear, but he assesses the real risk rather than imagining the worst-case scenario. Stability also affects relationships. Most men sabotage connections because they react emotionally, arguing when hurt, withdrawing when insecure, or chasing when anxious. A man who is emotionally stable communicates calmly, sets boundaries without hostility, and approaches conflicts with a solution-oriented mindset. He does not project his internal turbulence onto others. People naturally trust and respect those who maintain composure because it creates safety and reliability. Finally, emotional stability is rare because it requires consistent self-reflection. A man must continually observe his reactions, recognize triggers, and adjust his behavior. It is uncomfortable to face one's flaws, admit when anger or pride has taken control, and commit to change. Most men avoid this work because it is difficult, slow, and invisible to others. Yet this is precisely why high-value men stand out. Their calm in the storm, their consistent responses, and their measured presence mark them as exceptional in a world of impulsive reactions. A high-value man does not let his emotions define him. He understands them, respects them, and controls them. In mastering his inner world, he becomes unshakable in the outer world. Purpose-driven living is what distinguishes high-value men from the crowd practices. And it is a trait so rare because most people drift through life reacting to circumstances rather than intentionally shaping their path. Many men spend years following routines that are convenient, seeking validation that is fleeting, or chasing distractions that feel urgent but carry no lasting significance. In contrast, a high-value man operates with a clear sense of mission. Every action, every decision, every moment is filtered through the lens of long-term purpose. This does not mean he ignores enjoyment or relaxation, but he prioritizes growth, meaning and contribution above temporary pleasure. Living with purpose begins with clarity of self. A high-value man knows his values, strengths, and weaknesses, practices. He understands what he stands for and what he will not compromise. Without this internal compass, life becomes a series of reactive moves, responding to external pressures, pleasing others, or avoiding discomfort. Purpose gives a man direction. It allows him to focus on what truly matters, rather than being distracted by fleeting trends, opinions, or superficial rewards. This focus shapes not only his actions but his character, as he consistently aligns behavior with principle. Purpose-driven living also requires vision. A high-value man sees beyond the present moment, He does not make decisions based solely on immediate gratification or short-term gain. Instead, he evaluates how choices contribute to his long-term goals, This vision is not rigid, it evolves as he grows, but it is deliberate. It demands patience, as meaningful results rarely appear overnight. Most men give up when progress is invisible or slow, but a man driven by purpose persists because he knows that enduring effort compounds over time. He understands that the value of work lies not in recognition today, but in the results he is building for tomorrow. Consistency is another pillar of purpose-driven living. A high-value man does not act purposefully only when convenient or when motivation is high. He commits to his mission daily, even when the path is difficult or unrecognized. He rises early to train, study, or plan when others sleep. He prioritizes responsibilities over distractions. He does not wait for ideal conditions, he creates them. This consistency not only produces results, but strengthens his identity as a disciplined, reliable, and intentional individual. Purpose-driven living is also about contribution. High-value men do not live solely for themselves. They recognize that their actions have impact on family, community, colleagues, and society. Their purpose often involves creating value for others, whether through leadership, mentorship, or service. This outward focus reinforces internal discipline because a man who understands the weight of his responsibility cannot afford to act recklessly or carelessly. His life becomes a balance of self-improvement and meaningful contribution, each feeding the other. Another aspect of purpose is resilience. A man with purpose does not crumble when faced with obstacles, criticism, or failure. Challenges are inevitable, but they are evaluated as tests of commitment rather than reasons to quit. Purpose gives a man the strength to endure, adapt, and continue moving forward even when circumstances are harsh or progress is slow. Most men abandon goals at the first sign of resistance because they lack a compelling reason to persist. A high-value man never loses sight of why he started, which makes him unshakable in adversity. Living purposefully also creates authenticity. When a man acts in alignment with his mission, he does not seek constant approval from others. He does not rely on external validation to define his worth. Instead, he measures himself against his own principles and progress. This internal alignment builds confidence, presence, and a quiet authority that others naturally respect. People are drawn to those who know where they are going and act deliberately. Because such clarity is rare in a world of indecision and distraction. Finally, purpose-driven living requires constant self-reflection. A man must continually ask, am I moving toward my mission? Are my daily actions aligned with my values? Am I growing in the areas that matter most? This ongoing evaluation prevents stagnation and ensures that every effort contributes to long-term goals. It is uncomfortable at times, as it forces acknowledgement of failures, wasted time, or misaligned choices. Yet this discomfort is necessary. It is the crucible in which focus, resilience, and integrity are forged. High-value men are rare because living purposefully is difficult. It demands vision, discipline, resilience, consistency, and reflection. It requires saying no to distractions, temptations, and fleeting pleasures. It demands that a man build his life intentionally rather than drift passively. Purpose-driven living is not easy, but it is the foundation of every trait that makes a man truly exceptional. In the end, high-value men are rare not because they are born with extraordinary gifts, but because they choose a path that most avoid. They embrace discomfort, master themselves, and act with purpose when the world seeks distraction. They take responsibility for their lives, remain calm when chaos surrounds them, and commit daily to growth even when no one is watching. Their rarity is a reflection of the difficulty of true self, mastery, discipline, and intentional living. Yet this rarity is also their power. A man who achieves these qualities does not simply exist, he commands respect, inspires trust, and leaves a legacy of strength, integrity, and purpose. In a world of fleeting attention and instant gratification, the high-value man stands firm, a reminder that greatness is earned, not given, and that the journey toward it is what defines a life worth living.